What's up guys, my name is Emiliano. Today I'll be walking you guys down my daily routine as a remote worker, or just the daily routine that remote workers can copy so they can maximize muscle growth while staying lean and still getting their work done. So let's get right into it. 6:30 a.m. that is usually my wake up time. Nothing too early, nothing too late. Whatever works for you or whatever your routine looks like. A lot of people get to work first thing in the morning. A lot of people work a little bit later into the morning, or maybe the afternoon is when they start their deep work. For me, I like to hit the gym first thing in the morning. Why? Because I can move around my schedule. Even when I was closing, at the moment I'm mostly doing content creation as well as my schoolwork. However, even while I was just a high ticket closer, I had the opportunity, the ability to move my schedule around. And this is how I would optimize it, even if I was still in that routine. But yeah, so 6:30 in the morning, I wake up 6:30, 6:45. Now, from 6:30 to 7:30, 7:30 a.m., I'm already in the gym. You might be thinking, what are you doing in this whole hour time block? Well, I take my vitamins, I drink my morning coffee for digestion, and I have a small pre-workout snack. A lot of people don't recommend that you eat first thing in the morning. I also would not recommend that if you're working first thing in the morning, like genuinely sitting down to work. Why? Because your body doesn't need that much energy. Sometimes it's still using the energy from the day before, so you don't really need to eat. However, I work out first thing in the morning, so I have a small pre-workout snack. Depending on what day it is, if it's a leg day, I'll have a bigger snack. But yeah, in this 1 hour time block, this accounts for my taking vitamins, pre-workout snack, brush my teeth, everything, as well as my commute. So at 7:30 a.m. I'm in the gym, and from 7:30 to 9:30 I am doing my workout, whether it's a leg workout, whether it is a chest day, pull day, push day. Right now I do a chest and back, shoulders and arms, and then the leg day, or the other way around. I start my week off with the leg day. However, that's what I do in this whole 1 hour time block. You may be thinking, what do you do in that whole, or not that 1 hour time block, in that whole 2 hour time block? Why do you spend so much time in the gym? This at first sight might seem like something that's, very lengthened. Maybe I'm just spending too much time in the gym, but this is what I do. In the gym, I'll get there, do my warm up, and 15 minutes at around 7:45, 8 a.m., I'm already hitting my first set. However, especially on days like a leg day, I'll spend around an hour and 30, an hour and 20 lifting weights, like genuinely doing my strength training. I usually do around 4 to 6 exercises max per gym session. 4 on leg days because I like to do less volume, more intensity, and around 6 to sometimes 7 exercises if it is a chest and back day or shoulders and arms. But of course, the intensity is always high. It's just you're hitting more muscles on those days, and also just leg exercises are so much more exhausting. So doing more volume, it's not really recommended. So from around 8 to 9 a.m., 9:15, I do my strength training, right? I do everything. That includes my resting in between, everything else. And from 9 a.m. to 9:30, around 9:30, sometimes 9:45-ish, I'll be doing 20 to 30 minutes of incline walk. I always finish off my workouts with an incline walk. Why? Because especially as a remote worker, you want to make sure that you're getting your steps in, right? And that's an amazing way not just to get steps, but burn extra calories. The more calories that you're burning on a treadmill like that, the bigger calorie deficit that you're going to create. Or if you're not in a calorie deficit, you're just maintaining, the easier that it is for you to stay in that maintenance calorie range, as opposed to just not hitting your steps, getting only 5,000, less than 5,000, which can be pretty common, especially if you're a remote worker, sitting down for most of the day. So by adding those extra 5,000 steps every single day, getting 10,000, you're gonna be burning at least 200 to 300 calories extra, and that right there already gets me at least 2,000 steps just with my incline walk. So that's why I spend 2 hours in the gym. A lot of us don't have time to go to the gym. So what I would do is, instead of putting that whole 2-hour time block, why? Because this accounts for my commute as well, do max a 1-hour session at home. That's what I used to do. That's what I started doing before I even started hitting the gym, right? I was very young. I didn't even have a car. So that's what I would do. But anyways, in between 9:30 and 10 a.m., that's my commute, or the rest of my commute. Sometimes, I'll go get groceries, do whatever extracurricular things. And at 10 a.m., that's when I'll start my day off doing some kind of remote work. Usually scripting videos, whether it's long form, short form, doing my stories, batch recording, whatever, those don't take as long. So from 10 a.m. to 11, that's what I'll be doing. And at 11 a.m., that's usually when I have my first actual meal. First thing is just first thing that I eat in the morning. That's not a meal. That's just a pre-workout snack, because I do find it that if I don't eat anything before the gym, I'm not able to push myself hard enough. Everyone always has mixed opinions about, oh no, you should, train fasted, train without eating, or doing whatever, right? And yeah, although that might seem more hardcore, everyone's body is different. And trust me, most people are going to perform better if they have something in their stomach, as long as it's not a big meal that's going to have you digesting throughout your workout, taking away all your energy. It's going to be better if you do have some kind of carb source before your workout. You're going to be able to push yourself harder, get to a greater level of intensity. And if you're able to push yourself harder, if you optimize the intensity, you're going to optimize the amount of possibilities for muscle growth. 11 a.m. First meal plus meal prep. Why? Because I'm not eating for a whole hour. From 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., that's what I'm doing. I'm eating my first meal, but on top of that, I'm meal prepping for my other meals throughout the day, or my meal for the day afterwards. I don't have a specific day where I completely meal prep, because I think, it takes up so much time in your fridge, or so much space in your fridge. And on top of that, I feel like it's easier this way, so you can actually switch up what you eat throughout the day. You're not always eating the exact same thing, and it doesn't take up so much time out of your day. And it's also a lot less likely that food goes bad, because a lot of people have that issue. They'll meal prep and then they'll just completely forget about that. Now, first meal. Here I put an 11-minute walk. Let me zoom in here. 15-minute walk, actually. So as soon as I finish my meal prep and my first meal, and before I get to my 12 p.m. task, I do a 15-minute walk, whether it is outside, whether it's around my house, just pacing around. I do that because a lot of people don't realize, and this goes especially for my remote workers, walking after a meal, not only does it slow digestion, it aids digestion, but also just helps get the blood flowing, get those extra steps once again. And on top of that, it helps to already be burning some calories. Trust me, if you sit down right after a big meal, you're gonna feel the difference, as opposed to if you walk for 15 minutes. It's really gonna help your digestion, and really gonna help get those nutrients out the way that it's supposed to, as opposed to just sitting down right after you eat a big meal. That can be detrimental towards your energy. You can sometimes, if you eat too many calories and then you go ahead and sit down, you're gonna get sleepy, that kind of thing. But anyways, 12 p.m. At around 12 p.m., 12 to 4 actually, in that 4-hour time block is usually when I get most of my tasks done throughout the day, right? A lot of people will see this, be like, oh, you're not eating, or you're not working for 8 hours straight, you probably have it so much easier, blah, blah, blah. However, I'm a big believer that most 8-hour shifts, most 8-hour jobs, you're not genuinely working for those 8 hours. Most people that work from a 9 to 5, they get whatever job they need to get done within the first 2 hours, if they're efficient, right? And the other 6 hours is just spending extra time supposedly being productive, but you're not truly being productive, right? Not saying that's the case for everybody. However, as long as you're genuinely working, you can get a lot more done in half the time. That's why I work from 12 to 4. But this is genuine deep work, locked in my room. After some digestion has already started, or most of the food has already started to digest. Why? Because if you work right after a big meal, Trust me, you're gonna feel the difference. That's why if you are working first thing in the morning, don't eat that pre-workout snack. Always, make sure that your hydration and everything else is in check, but don't eat that pre-workout snack because you're gonna feel a lot sharper if you're fasted, if you don't have anything in your stomach, and especially, most people are already fasting as soon as they wake up in the morning, so it's not even that big of a deal. And you're wired to work that way either way. And I'm not saying that just to be, the hardcore person or for to encourage people to, go through that route or that ideology. It's just genuinely your body functions better whenever you're fasted because that's how our ancestors did it, right? We would wake up in the jungle. You don't have food readily available. You would have to go out, hunt it, burn some calories, and then you get to cook your food and eat after, after doing some work. So do that instead. This is what I do. In between that 12 to 4 hour time block, I'll usually do, as you can see here, it says batch record and edit. That's what I'll usually do if you guys can see that. And on top of that, I put this 15-minute walk. I put an arrow pointing right here as well because I also do 15 minutes of walking in between. Why? Because sitting for 4+ hours straight, it's of course going to be detrimental towards your health in the long run. And on top of that, it also helps just get your mind off of things for a little bit. Helps with creativity, or at least if you're walking outside in nature, and what have you. And then after that, at around 4 p.m., 4:30ish, I'll have my second, and it's also second. You can call it my second to almost last meal. Usually around 4:30 p.m. I'll have my second meal. But yes, around 4 to 4:30, I'll have my second meal. Second, and a lot of the times also my last meal. I don't like to eat very close to my bedtime. My bedtime is all the way until 9:30 p.m. However, this varies from time to time. Sometimes I'll just push it off until 6:30, 7 p.m., and that's all that I will eat for the rest of the day. However, on days that I do feel very hungry, I'll eat at 4:30 and then maybe have a small snack before I do go to bed as well. Because a lot of people think, oh, I just won't eat and for the rest of the night, I'll just wake up the next morning. However, I have had experiences where I eat at 4 p.m. and I'm like, I'm just gonna fast all the way until, tomorrow at 12 or, whenever I wake up, have my pre-workout snack. However, I have had experiences where I wake up throughout the night because I simply cannot go to bed without eating something or putting something in my stomach, which can be detrimental towards your performance, not just inside, but outside the gym. But yeah, that pretty much sums up most of what my routine looks like. I'll put up like here a screen recording of what it looks like on my Google Calendar. I always recommend using Google Calendar. Helps to be more efficient, be organized, and actually dedicate the time needed for a task as opposed to spending extra time on a task which should have taken an hour and it taking you 3 hours when you could have, had everything done in less time. Going back to what I said, if you genuinely sit down and work, no distractions, nothing, you can get a lot done within 4 hours as opposed to working for 8 hours straight, which is gonna just be detrimental towards your health and your mind. But yeah, so around 4:30, I'll have my second meal. Sometimes at around 7 p.m., maybe I'll have an extra meal, 7 p.m. final. You can call it a final meal, but most of the time I only eat twice per day. Helps to keep my calories low as well as hit my protein goal with ease. Always, a lot of fiber, a lot of protein in what I eat. Usually comes from meat because it helps keep you satiated, as well as that fiber also helps keep you satiated. That way you don't go crazy with cravings, especially being a remote worker. You're not moving around a lot, or if you are getting your 10,000 steps, you are. However, most people, they're not moving around a lot. So if you're overeating on top of that, it's going to be very likely that you put on unnecessary amounts of fat. But yeah, so around 9:30 p.m., that's my bedtime. No, I'm not in bed from 9:30 to 6. It's just, from 9:30 to 10:30, that's usually when I'll start winding down, turn off phones, turn off everything else, brush my teeth, get ready for bed. And then from 10:30 to 6:30, so around 8 hours is what I'll spend in bed. and I use my Oura ring to track that. But yeah, that pretty much sums up my routine as a remote worker. If you guys found it helpful in any way, you can copy it, switch it around. You know, obviously personalize it. Everyone's schedule is different, as well as their body and how they feel. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or suggestions, just comment down below. And if you want to personally work with me, there's also a link down there. See if it would make sense, get you a personalized plan so we can get you to your goals a lot quicker. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.